Did you actually have final cut on this picture, or was it Paula's decision or the distributor's decision? What went on there?
I had a sales agent and a senior lender. So the senior lender and the sales agent act as the balancing side of the coin, because the sales agent have to sell it, and the senior lender is the guy who, of course, is underwriting the tax credits and the estimates against the future sales. So they put the bulk of the money in. And even though they know they're going to probably get 70% of it back pretty fast, there's still, a question mark over the rest. And so the cut was 50% my company, T-Boss Film Limited, and 50% them, which to a certain extent basically meant it was them. Because, and I remember when I signed it, and I didn't think twice about it, actually, because, of course, I didn't assume there was ever going to be an issue. But we did get into a little of a back and forth. In the end, Paula and I just, I said to Paula, look, we have a beautiful film here, but it's more art house than they hoped. And they really want a US sale, and they want a UK sale, they want a German sale, which actually we don't have right now. And we need to put some more suspense there. And she agreed. Her point was, of course, look, and she worked so incredibly hard, and I just love her vision, and I love everything. But, sometimes there's just technical issues that you have. We had a freak storm in Italy, which, mucked up our opening sequence with all the tunnels in Liguria. We didn't get quite as much as we wanted. We didn't get as much footage in Italy as we wanted. We had some issues with, locations. And all of this has a knock-on effect if you can't then go and do a reshoot, or you don't have the money to do a reshoot. So she had to shoot a television series in the UK. So I said, fine, you have to go to the UK. Okay, well, let's just move the edit to the UK. Don't panic. We will get a UK editor, because her Dutch editor had just had a baby and he couldn't, obviously move. And I said, we found wonderful Paul Tothill, who had, was nominated for a BAFTA for Atonement, and who had also, he's Mike Newell's and Edgar Wright's editor. And he was free, thanks to Michael Hoffman, who knew him well and worked with him. And he said, you know what, maybe he's free. And I'll ask him to have a look at it. And he gave us a deal. And he said, yes, I'd be happy to continue. So with an extra eyes on the edit, with a more English viewpoint, because it's very, the script has a lot of subtext, English subtext, and that was one thing I was a little concerned, that some of the subtext of the film was being lost. So just because the cut would maybe cut onto someone else's face when someone else is finishing a sentence. And, that often happens with European co-productions when, you've got a mix, and I wanted a great mix. But also I had to accept that this was an English language film.
Yes.
So, no matter how good you are as English with a second language, like, the Dutch, speak perfect English, there are nuances that only an English editor might get. So I said, concentrate on the nuances of the script, concentrate on the storytelling. Paula is going to be in London, so that's perfect. So we did extend the edit a bit. So when you're asking about final cut, it was, we needed to do another cut. And I think it was the right thing to do. And the movie moves pretty fast, actually. I mean, in a way, maybe I think we could have put a bit more air into it. Now I look at it. But at the time, you're never sure. The American sales agents it was very about, we need to get need to get there. We need to get there. We need to tell the story.
Yes.
And I think from that point of view, it does really work. And it's always when you're straddling what we really said, this is a commercial film with an art house heart. And when you're straddling that, it's very difficult balance. It really, really is. But I think we got there. And then from what I'm seeing from the reactions and the people watching it, and the sales that we've had and it going around the world, I really think that we got close to that balance. And the performances, again, that was the most important thing to me. I said, as long as those performances aren't ruined by, any more scissors, and are only enhanced, then I'm happy, because this is character-driven film. Very few directors get final cut. It's always going to be, the distributor in the end, and the studio, or whatever the equivalent is.
The executives.
Yeah, that's kind of how it goes. But I have to say, I am so grateful to them, because they really were involved creatively. And David Gilbury, who, was our sort of financier at MFC, which is Media Finance Capital out of the UK. He's a producer himself, and he always said about this, he said, this film has my heart. He said, I'm deeply connected to this film. Whatever I can do for it, I will. It's not the kind of thing we do too much financing of.
Yeah.
They also did Bone Tomahawk, and they've done a lot of action movies, and he just said, but this speaks to me, and he just had a child. And so he was very, very involved and very cautious, I think, about not stepping over boundaries, which was great. And I really take my hat off to him for that, and to Todd, who was our sales agent at IFT, and to Dan Friedkin, who is one of my amazing investors, who I met through Claes Bang, and of course, who produced All the Money in the World with Ridley. So we had connections there, and he came on right at the end of the financing, because I'd had some Chinese money fall out, and he was about to do his first film as a director with Claes, and he said, I need him. And I said, oh Lord, you want to start on the same day that I want to shoot, which was actually 24th of April. And he said, well, what can I do to help you? And I said, well, I'm going to lose my Chinese money, and maybe you want to read the script, and maybe you want to be one of my investors. And he was an absolute gentleman, and he said, I love this script, and I will definitely do that. Every time it was about to just fall apart, some wonderful person picked me up. Cheyenne Kane, who has a major producer credit, Vigilance. When I called her and I said, look, Brian, we've got a slight problem, with Brian's dates and the financing, because we also now have to go to Italy. And she went, oh my God, you have to have Brian. I said, yeah, but also Italy is costing X. And she said, okay, how much more do we need? And so there was a real sense of involvement from everybody. The Oafs, who I met, who live in Texas, and I met doing a charity do and in Texas, and they were my first investors. They came on board because she read the script and just liked it and said, I've never invested in a movie. How much do you think, it's the least I can put in if I'm an investor? And I went, oh God, I thought, all right, 200,000? And she went, okay. Oh God,
Good.
that was my first 200,000. So, there are so many stories, and I think there are so many strands. You can just carve it off and say, okay, here's the producing strand, and just see to it purely economically, and then you can carve it off and say, here is the creative strand, the writing strand. But I've kind of taken you through a muddle of the two in a way. But I think that's where I'm kind of privileged and just hope
Great.
it's useful.
What about the German distribution? Can you shed some light on that? It seems like we are the last country to have the film on a video on demand platform.
Well, I tell you why, and it's odd, but it's to do with the pandemic, because pay TV is such a, when the distributors look at a film, they're asking themselves, will I be able to put this on pay TV? And the advertising revenue has shot down so much
Yes.
that the minimum guarantees they're offering filmmakers for independent films is just really bad. And this is an English language film. Yes, we've got artists that, I think the Germans would really like. It needs to be dubbed. That costs money. It needs to be scheduled. There's topics in there that are not, necessarily immediately user friendly. It's not in that sense, it's an adult, sophisticated film. And if they're thinking, golly, maybe what's happening to our pay TV deals. And, unless the pay TV is paying up, they're a bit wary. So we're really hoping that we'll just get to that point where it works out. And that is something I do leave in the hands of my sales agents. But we've got, we've sold to Stars and to Sky and to Fox, Disney over in Pan Asia, and to Amazon, a big deal, Amazon in Australia for pay TV, because they're now in that market. So I'm really hoping that, the Germans will step up. France, we're doing a deal with, so it'll likely be Canal Plus. So, I'm really hoping so. And if not, we'll just have to do, a DVD and the VOD deal,
Absolutely.
a direct one. But it'll happen. That's something else, of course, that's on the list.
Great.
I've got a lot on my list.
I'm sure the German audience or the larger European audience is going to look forward to it. Caroline, I would like to thank you for taking so much time out of your busy schedule. I really appreciate that. I had such a great time talking to you. It really means a lot to me. And I'm really glad we got to do this. I'm really happy.